What's going on, everybody? Happy Saturday. About to be Sunday, probably when you watch this. I'm BobbyFi. I'm back here with my man Eric Sheetsaber. We're going to be doing a another NFL Draftkings lineup show because things change obviously between when we did our last show and now, and we also wanted to update you on sort of what we're thinking, what we're sort of pivoting on, because there's a lot to like this week. And if there's one thing I don't like about my pool that I'm looking at Eric's right over here, it's I'm not, my ownership is a little too spread out and he's got his a lot more focused. So maybe we can help find some middle ground here and win $1 billion or something close to it. Sheets, how you doing, man? What's going on over there?
I'm doing good. It's sorry that our webcam is not here, but believe me, you don't want to see what I look like right now anyway. It's like really late. Um, but it's fine. So for those of you that saw the show a couple of days ago, I was very unclear with what I wanted to do, and I was very transparent about that. And I ran some. I watched some content. I did a little research. I ran some optimals, I ran some stacks, I ran some whatever. And yesterday I actually came to the conclusion of what I wanted to do. And so what I like to do at this point is I want to talk through it and let you know kind of where I stand. And then what I end up having to do is then kind of dechalkify slash diversify my lineups with various one-offs that I just kind of derive over the last day of research, or either from talking to Bobby or listening to other people, or just things that come to me or whatever it is. And that, when you're trying to win $1 million, it's you kind of need some of those things kind of filtered in. When we did the first NFL show we did a couple of weeks ago, I said the thing that's kind of annoying about the NFL is that whenever I'm finished building lineups in the NFL, I look at them and they all look like they're going to win. I'm so confident in all of them. And then you know how it goes. You know, if the first round of touchdowns at 115, if you don't have them, you're like, okay, on to the next slate. You know what I mean? So I'm like, wait, what was I thinking? Why didn't I have those guys? So, when I kind of look at my lineups, I always like to think, okay, so what am I missing? Why is this not winning? Because it's not. I mean, it's not winning. It's like it might win, but it's just not, and you don't know why it's not. So I'm trying to visualize what needs to be changed from this semi-obvious approach. So what I want to do, and this is really selfish, I was like really bothering Bobby. I'm like, listen, can we do like a live show? Which will be really helpful for everybody to kind of see how I struggle and maybe how you struggle, making those last minute changes. And selfishly, it'll help me because I'll talk through it, and maybe Bobby will say, well, you need to do this, you need to do that. Not plays particularly, but just the way your stuff is constructed. So like you'll see, like for example, just so you know, because a couple of people have asked me in the chats, I play 25 lineups in football, and for now I really only play the million. I don't play like the bigger ones. I don't play the ones that are easier to win. I just don't. All right. The NBA I play that kind of stuff, but in the NFL, this is what I do. So I have 25 lineups, and the way I do it is I take the guys I like the most, and then I plug them in, and then I run optimizers, and then I pick like the lineups from there that correlate the best with what I like, and then I kind of come up with this, and then I kind of go through them, and I really want to hand build, and make sure that they're exactly what I want. And on FanDuel, just because it's cheaper, I do the same thing, but I put 50 lineups in there, and I do the same thing. And I will actually go through 75 lineups between now and lock, and just make sure it's kind of the way I want it. And there could be some injury news that comes up between now and then that makes things a little bit hairy, but this is kind of the way I do it. So what I ended up doing, again, for those of you that don't remember, I was struggling mightily with where to go with my stacks and with my quarterback receiver combinations, and I like going like 10 or 12 different ways. And what I settled on is a real heavy weighting towards this towards Arizona and that game. As a matter of fact, as you see the ownerships, I have 64% Kyle Murray, which means since I stack every game, that 65% of my offense is going to be dedicated to Murray with Murray wide receivers. Some of them being Fitz, some of them being Kirk, some of them being Kirk and Fitz, right? and all of them are going to be running it back with somebody from Tampa. And I'm pretty sure that the only guy I have running it back is Godwin, and that's just the way it kind of worked
Wait,
out.
wait, wait. We're talking about different games
Oh,
here.
I'm sorry. In that game, I have it running it back with Landry and with Odell Beckham. Nothing fancier than that. And like you said, it seems like a logical way to play if in fact you like that game. And as a matter of fact, we have 64% of that. I have 11% of the other side of it with basically the same thing, like Mayfield on top with Landry and some with both Landry and Beckham running it back with Kirk. I decided I didn't go the Kenyon Drake route. That was another way I could have gone. But I just did a really vanilla type approach with the with those receivers. And as far as the other quarterbacks and receivers I went to like 3 lineups or so with the Lions, with Blau quarterbacking, with Danny Amendola, who actually end up in 50% of my lineups. And what I don't have, which again I probably should go get, I should probably get some with Galladay, right? I mean, if I'm going to do that. And then, and then on the other side, I also have 2 with Winston. Same deal. I have Winston with Godwin, and this one I don't have any double stacks. It's just Godwin and running it back one time with Amendola. And that's basically, with the exception of like 1 or 2 Goff stacks, the extent of my approach. And then if you look at the other things you'll go through, you'll see my running backs are incredibly concentrated. Like you see, I'll have some combination of McCaffrey, Fournette, Barkley, and Laird and Carson in almost every lineup. You know what I mean? So this is, to me, this is the way I'm thinking about this. It ended up being, in my opinion, a very, very chalky beginning to this. The one guy I did add in, again, didn't project all that great, but talking about this with Bobby a couple of days ago, he totally turned me on to this idea that Dalvin Cook, especially low ownership, is probably a good play. So I put him in like 18% of my builds, also of my lineups, also, and just everything you see go through these things, they almost look very similar, like all these lineups. Like with the exception of a random Zeke Elliott in there. And then even at tight end, you'll see I have 61% Tyler Higbee, and then 32% Darren Waller, and then a couple of lineups sprinkled out. So, it as far as defenses go, I really just let the optimizers just kind of determine what defense I had. I really didn't make any picks of defenses. So that's another thing I might have to tweak. But this is kind of the way I do it. Is I have these lineups ready to go, and then I just kind of know that I need to just do give them a little, TLC, little 10 to 11 care, where I tweak a little bit and just see if I can, make these things either a little less chalky, if there even are that chalky, or if I need to put more players in here in general. I'm taking too big of a stance maybe on Amendola or on Higbee or whatever. Like you see, I'll have a Hopkins in there. He's like 10%, but if I bet you if you count the players in my player pool, it's really not that high, and that's to say the least. So again, this is probably not what it's going to look like at the very end. But if you want to see how I kind of do it, this is the type of stuff that I just usually come up with, and that's where I'm at.
Okay, so stop your screen share. I'm going to share my screen just so you guys know what I'm struggling.
Okay, sure.
Because I'm going through.
Wait! Before you go, I did, just for those of you who remember, I am on brand. I am playing a decent amount of Greg Ward, by the way. We can talk about that as we get through it. Good.
So I still have my script built, and I'm not going to give away any private information to any sites. But if you stop your share, I'll share my Draftkings lineups. But I haven't finished my build. I wait till the morning of in football. I wake up at 5 a.m. and I start going through things, but I don't wait till the injury reports are out to finish my actual script. But my hand-built lineups are another story. So I'm going to share my screen in 1 second. We're going to go over to just this Draftkings window, right? You guys can see my window. It doesn't really matter what else you see on there. Let's see, you can see the issue. Sheets, can you see my window?
Yep.
The issue that I'm running into is at quarterback, actually. And I had a really successful week 2 weeks ago doing something like this, but I didn't play this many lineups, and what's weird to me right now is just how spread out I feel at quarterback because different game environments. I too like Kyler Murray, but I've got him at 13%. I like the Ryan Fitzpatrick upside. I could make a good argument for all these guys. Winston, I'm not really that afraid of the pinky. I'm sorry, the thumb. Um, I think in the end, what you're going to end up seeing is a lot more Deshaun Watson and a lot more Dak Prescott. I think that that's where I'm starting to think that I can, like when in doubt with quarterbacks, play those guys. And they have easy pairings, whichever way you want to go, if you want to go that route. Not worried about ownership this week. I probably want more Tannehill, but I don't really love it on low volume, like at chalk. So it just feels a little bit like I'm having trouble. I like Minshew's upside. Like I have probably more Derrick Henry here than I'm going to end up with. I think Dalvin Cook is the one place I really do want to set it like he's a guy I'm a little bit firm on. I don't know where Zeke's going to end up ownership wise, but my plan is to get ahead of it. I don't have Gurley and as many on these particular lineups, but I will add him. I will add more Westbrook and Conley because I got that news later today. I didn't get the news, but I ended up building my lineups later today and just confirming Shark was out. I also have a lot of interest in Mike Williams. There's a lot of guys I'm really interested in. What I'm struggling with is narrowing it down outside of a few spots. Like I can prioritize Dalvin Cook. That's a little bit of a pivot off of everything. People are not going to play Dalvin Cook. I'm a little bit stuck with being a little too spread out. Otherwise, I like the way that my stacks and my lineups are organized and correlated. I feel like there's too many variations of them, and I just need to find a better way to overlap. There's also a lot of cheap receivers that I think are really worth taking shots on, and that's where I'm trying to get my value from this week. So I'm much more willing to pay up at running back. I'm probably going to end up with less Laird than most people, even though I like him and it's the spot and everything. I'm probably going to end up going with more cheap receivers and like mixing through them. I just don't know which ones I'm going to prioritize yet. I honestly still have more research to do, and I'm not at my final stage yet. Like I probably am not going to end up with that much Jamal Williams, but I do think he's an interesting tournament play. These are sort of my initial builds that I've made some pivots off today, and I honestly am just really spread out, and that's what I would love to change. I think I'm onto a lot of plays that I like, but it's just a little bit spread out for me, and it's something that I need to figure out a way of honing in a little bit. I'm much more concentrated on FanDuel. It's just maybe the way that I build over there. I'm much heavier. I just found it much easier to play the Texans-Titans game in different ways. I also think that you can play the Dallas and Rams game in different ways. And I think that's where I'm going to end up gravitating a little bit more towards. Like I could see those teams playing a little bit faster here. And then the Tampa Bay Detroit game. These are when all else fails. Like, shouldn't you go back to Kyler Murray at home in Arizona and any team that Baker Mayfield plays against them? By the way, we mentioned both those teams. I like the defenses in that game as well.
Sure.
You can get some edge there. And then, you go back to Jameis Winston all the time, even if he's playing with a broken thumb. I don't care. In any game that he's playing in, which means the other team as well. So there's that game. Maybe that's where I'm going to narrow it down to, and then the Tannehill, but mostly Deshaun Watson version of that game. I do think it's a mistake overall to play Tannehill over Watson here. That's my personal take. Say what you will. The more I think about it, the more when I built my biggest buy-in lineups on FanDuel, it was just so automatic for me to want to play Watson. Smaller field, don't need to pivot off of things as much, and I just felt like, oh, there's a really natural build that I like with Watson as my quarterback. So I think I'm going to probably try and get a little more Watson in here. Try and narrow down my range at quarterback, but mostly try and narrow down my range at receiver. I don't need to have so much exposure to not so much, but just even minimal exposure to some of these guys. I can just make harder stances on the guys I like the Hopkins, like Godwin. I know they're popular, like Ward, like Galladay. I don't care how different they are. I need to make more of a stance on Mike Williams. And another guy, especially on FanDuel, who I like is Keenan Allen. I think this is a sneaky spot. I don't think Xavier Rhodes is the same person people think he is. And the Chargers, like, if these are the final days of Phillip Rivers, don't you just sort of see him trying to throw the ball around? I want to make a priority to try and get some Mike Williams and Keenan Allen exposure. and potentially you could say Eckler would be a part of that as well. And then you play that because I'm playing Dalvin Cook on the other side. I may as well just have a little bit more of a stance on those guys for that reason, if nothing else.
You know what? You know what I was worried about. So when I was thinking about running backs, when I was thinking about Kenyon Drake, when I was thinking about Melvin Gordon, when I was thinking about Austin Eckler, and again, this is such a pedestrian way to think about it. Then, though, that I really wanted to have the running backs that I know were going to be given the full workload. I know, duh. Okay, must be nice, to always have the running backs that are getting the full workload. But whenever I was just trying to pick between Eckler and Gordon, I just felt as though on this slate, I guess in general, that for me it was just so much safer, and I guess that's why they're high owned, and more expensive to take the guys like Carson and Cook and Fournette and even at some degree Laird, I guess.
People are not playing Cook and Henry. Like, no one's playing them for sub. No one's going to play these guys.
Yeah.
And I think that's a mistake. Like, I mean, look, I love Saquon Barkley probably more than anybody. But when you're going to play a chalk guy who hasn't gotten there at all, like, maybe you should start reevaluating that. And I'm just saying, like, I still like him this week. I'm probably with the field, so I'm not making this move as much as I'm talking it. But if you wanted to make a bold stance, that would be a real bold way to go, is to avoid Saquon and play the guys around him. Because even if he does have a big game, every one of those guys around him could surpass him.
Yeah, and then you know what? The other guy I even thought about a little bit again was the Aaron Jones. But I guess this is my issue with football in general. Like whenever I start thinking about playing guys like Aaron Jones, then I start thinking about playing guys like Jamal Williams. And then I start thinking, boy, if I'm really struggling between two guys on the same freaking team, and neither of them are that cheap, I mean, what am I doing? You know what I mean? So it's and then you think about, well, maybe I'll just play one of each or something like that. But that's not. I don't know. That feels wrong, and I'm sure that people win a lot of money just trying to pick the running back that's going to get the right game script or the right thing. But I don't know. I just think that I'll take the volume with the run. I mean, maybe this is like way too pure, but take the volume with the running backs, and I'll go for variance to wide receivers. And maybe just that's the way this slate kind of played out, or maybe it's just because it's been a long season to be getting all the running backs wrong that I'm gun shy taking shots with guys like that, and that could be the case too. Because I know we had a decent conversation. We had a decent conversation over the past couple of days about, when we last did the show about how we were going to do. How I was thinking of doing like Chris Thompson and guys like that, and pick your game script and play the guy that you think is going to be have the game script work in his favor. And then I guess I just chickened out. You know what I mean? I guess that's that's just a leak of mine. You know what I mean? But I guess it's just if I stop thinking about players and just start thinking about what they represent on the spreadsheet, maybe it's a better way of looking at it. Like, so maybe Chris Thompson is not going to get the full workload, but he's 3,900. You know what I mean? He doesn't need to get the full workload, and all he needs to get is one swing pass out of the backfield for a touchdown, and you're a freaking you're a millionaire. You know what I mean?
Right. No, I get you. I mean, I want to make one real point that I've missed in other years and that I've gotten better at as I've continued to play. And I'm sort of adding a little bit of that right now. Initially, when I look at this slate, I really wanted to play the running back into my flex spot like I normally do. I think this is the time of year where the cheap wide receivers become more in play. A lot of young guys get more reps this time of year. Teams have given up. They're sort of accepting their position. There's a lot of spots. There's injuries. There's a lot of situations going on like that. And likewise, like it's the same reason why the top end guys tend to get more of a workload, especially from the running back position this time of year. So that just makes sense why you would want to have more variance with your receivers and more, knowing where you're getting your production from and your running back, because that's the way the game is played this time of the season. You know what I'm saying? It's like in the NBA. Usually you get the rookies or the young guys, or it used to be this way. It's not so much this way anymore, but it used to be the young guys. They all come out 60 games in, 55 games in, or whatever. Baseball, the September call-ups. This is sort of the football's version, and you take shots on either young receivers or receivers who don't usually get a chance, who are getting a chance more so and then also the running backs who are going to get more of a featured role because they're workhorse backs with something to play for. That's why I would rather play guys like I don't know if this is completely going to be wrong this year because there are a lot of guys who I really like who aren't in games that matter, but I think it matters more to what Dalvin Cook does. I think it matters more what Ezekiel Elliott does than what Saquon Barkley does. And while my ownerships don't entirely reflect that yet, Chris Carson also is another one who it matters what he does. Todd Gurley, it matters what he does. It's just worth it to note that, like, Patrick Laird, even though I've got him in 34% of my lineups right now, I'm probably going to be farther below on that. I still like him. It's like it sucks because you like the spot, the work, and everything. But there's so many ways like these games can play that just these guys could be completely eliminated. And I can feel safe about my other running backs where I can take shots on Justin Watson at receiver and Jaga Whiteside and Greg Ward, you know what I mean? And down the line.
Right.
And I think that's just the way that I'm sort of leaning.
Well, there's the one guy that, I see that you have, high ownership on that I just, and again, this is a mistake of mine. It's a mistake because my whole theme of playing these good, well-projected, good workhorse, running backs, maybe I think too much about football and I know I should be playing Zeke Elliott. I just know I should. And then I just think of like it just gets in my head that hashtag Cowboys suck, hashtag Garrett's the worst, hashtag the Rams defense is playing better. You know what I mean? But in the
Haven't been
end,
good against any good team yet. All these things,
yeah,
I agree with you. But you have a first running back that we would pay 100 for on opening day if this was the matchup.
Yeah,
and we're not going to pay 7,700 at low ownership for him now.
Yep, that's probably the first thing I'm gonna remember to do is to regard Elliott as really no different. I mean, maybe a couple $100 or maybe a couple of value points one way or the other from guys like Fournette and Carson
but also Fournette is not going to be the crazy ownership, and also I do worry about it with him. Like if Jacksonville, there's a route where they could just be done, which is making me nervous about that game.
Right.
But so are the Raiders. Like it's kind of a weird, like, what do you do? Like, or maybe it's just all out there. Like, so it's like, for me, I found myself more in a stacking or in fading kind of situation, with the exception of Waller, who I like quite a bit. Even that, I actually don't feel great about, to be honest with you. I actually feel like the Waller thing could come back to bite me because I think, it matters what happens with Philadelphia, even though it's a game that they should win. They still are in the playoff hunt. Like, Zach Ertz should get work. Goddard should get work. And that's why I was adjusting some of my ownerships before to throw Goddard into some, because I actually do have him in my projections, which I can't show you right now, but a little bit higher. But I prefer Goddard over Njoku. It's just not reflected in my current ownerships at this second.
Yeah, we talked a little bit about Njoku, being back, for the first time in or maybe the second week he's back or whatever. Yeah, we talked about him because he's not going to project because he hasn't played, right? So they're just guessing on what he's doing, but we certainly know that he has he has the physical talent and all that good stuff, and he's, I imagine, not going to be highly owned. So he's and the fact is also, speaking personally, the fact that I'm going to be playing 64% of my lineups and Draftkings in that game, kind of silly not to have at least a couple of them with Njoku in there, right? I mean, and in a similar way, actually different. In my Lions lineups, they just have to have Galladay in there, but that was just kind of an oversight by me. But like if I'm going to play 60, look, if I was going to play one lineup or two or three lineups with the Arizona game, maybe I won't get to the Njoku piece. But if I'm going to play, 15 or 13 or 14 out of 25 lineups with a mix and match of those players, I probably should do one at least, if not two, with Njoku, who's going to be probably, first of all, I probably need to get some diversification from my really concentrated tight end pool anyway, right? Because with all the Higbee I have, and then I have 61% Higbee and 32% freaking Waller. The only other guy I have like one share of basically Jonnu Smith and one share of Ian Thomas, or two shares of Ian Thomas. So Njoku would probably be a guy that fit the rest of my builds, right? But was just left out by me.
Yeah, it's definitely a different. I'm still struggling with this week. I'm struggling because I don't usually have this much trouble narrowing down my focus. And
Let me ask you something. So I see that you so you have however many lineups you have like listed here, and I see that they're already pre-entered into like 4 or 5 different tournaments. Is there one way? I mean, like if it were me, like if it's
adding
one. What's that?
I'm going to keep adding a bunch to all of these. It's just
right. Right. So what I was saying is that like it's one way to. I guess you don't want to spread more. You wanted to concentrate more. So what I was going to say is, if you wanted to spread more, you would find which lineup. It's in 5 different tournaments, and based on the character of that particular tournament, you would tweak it to fit the mold of that thing. You know what I mean? Like if you had.
That's what I'm going to end up doing is adding more to the ones that I like. Like I'll add to the Keenan Allen lineups, but I'll make some variations, and then I'll end up settling on what I'll end up doing is my highest buy-in tournaments. Some between my highest buy-in / the field size, which the field size is really more important than the size of the buy-in.
Yeah.
You're trying to play like field size wise. So in the 333, I'm going to narrow down my ownership and have my favorite lineups obviously more featured, more prevalently in there. Like I'm okay with spreading out. I'm max entering 150 lineups this week, so I am okay spreading out a little bit, but I still would like to concentrate more. And in my ownership projections, which I can't show you because you can just can't do it. I can. It doesn't necessarily reflect what you're seeing right now, but this is an idea of some of the hand builds that I've come up with, and I think that there's a lot in here. I just don't know which way I'm going to end up with all of it yet. And honestly, it's going to be a late decision day for me, which those have worked out terrific for me lately, and they've also worked out really badly for me at times in the past. So I'm not sure how I feel about tomorrow, but I think I'm getting ready for it.
Now, do you think about stuff like as far as football goes, seeing if your lineups have a mixture of low-owned and high-owned guys, or also high upside versus kind of conservative guys?
Yeah, by the end of it, I do, especially based on the field size of the tournaments. But it's hard. You want some of the variance when you spread out that many tournaments, so you don't want to like be overly worried about, oh, this guy's 7%, he's 9%. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's what it ends up being in football most of the time. It's not like you're talking about a guy who's 50 versus a guy who's 5.
Right.
Those are obvious pivot off of that spots. You know what I mean?
What's fun about what's interesting again about this week is usually like in these week 15, 16, 17s, you get that really, really chalky running back that's 3,000 that is given that starting role because they're shutting somebody down or something like that, and it becomes kind of a focal point on the slate. But maybe it's a week or two early. But like this week, I mean, without even looking, I mean, I wouldn't even be able to tell you without looking who the highest owned guy on the slate is. You know what I mean?
No, it's going to be so spread out. Is the truth. And I mean, look, something will probably happen tomorrow morning that changes everything because it's that time of year. Right. But it does feel like one of those weeks where everything's going to be very, very spread out from the wide receiver positions. The running back, I think you'll see more concentration on Carson. I think you'll see more concentration on McCaffrey, more concentration on Laird. Other than that, I think that you're pretty much going to play low-owned guys with the same upside. I mean, not that low-owned, but pretty low-owned other than those 3. I mean, one guy who's really interesting, and Gurley will have ownership too. But Miles Sanders, people aren't really talking about. And I just think, like, look out. This could be a spot where Miles Sanders breaks a big game, even though I overall actually kind of like Washington's defense, which without Howard in there, it's just it's a big spot where I feel like he would have been chalked a couple weeks ago. So he's a guy I want to make sure to get some more of. I just remembered that one.
It's funny. Football is brutal because just as I see you kind of just looking at, forget your lineups, like scrolling down the list of players, it reminded me when we went through a couple of days ago about all these amazing plays you can make. You know what I mean? All these ways you could go that you could make stories for that make sense, and I have none of it. You know what I mean? Like I just had to, like if like I remember I must have spent like 15 minutes talking about how much I loved just running right back with San Francisco's offense with Garoppolo and right back to your man to Sanders with either Samuel or Kittle running it right back with a 4% on Julio Jones or somebody like that.
Right.
And
No,
and it totally makes perfect sense. And I have zero of it. You know what I mean? And it's just a piece I'm going to have to make with some of it. I'm not going to become too spread out. And it's
tough, man.
It's very, very tough. It's just a tough thing. But again, because I make peace with it ahead of time, it's not going to really bother me too much if those things kind of come in, because I'm constantly making the decision to I don't want to say to avoid it, but let's just say to prioritize.
Right.
And then even like weird off the board plays, which I could just totally see smash. I could see freaking Joe Mixon getting 30 points. You know what I mean? Against New England. I could see on the other side. I could see Sony Michel getting 25, 30 points in that game. There's like so many ways that this slate can go that fit narratives. I guess maybe that's just because the way football is. Like you're so used to seeing things happen that you can just kind of make that case, and the projections are so close in some of these that it's tough to it's tough to say that this can't happen.
Yeah, it's totally different than the other games. And that, like, I just was making some changes, and it's funny because like a lot of it might seem like random, just changing this guy for that guy, but they all basically have the same game style changes. Like if I lowered my defense in one case, and I switched my receivers because I had more Shepard than I had Slayton, and I kind of want to have the same of both. So I switched to Slayton and upgraded my defense, and then I did the opposite in another lineup, getting some variance. But in the end, I'm going to end up in my bigger buy-ins focusing more on the ones that I want. And look, this is just a preview. This is not how these things are going to end up.
Yeah.
Hopefully we've been helpful to you guys. Sheets, what else would you like to tell the people before we get out of here and get some sleep before this monster slate, and I can make my final decisions when I haven't had a couple glasses of wine and it's morning, and I can just have my coffee and get the lineups made and win $1 million?
Nothing. I would say that again, depending on what kind of player you are, depending on how many lineups you build or whatever. And again, if you're going to build 150, 300 lineups, you're just not going to be able to get. You're going to have to become that much much better at scripting, right, and much better at grouping and all that kind of stuff. And if you're making hand build lineups, then really take the care to go through them. And like what I'm doing is I'm going to be ending up going like raking these things over and say, okay, do I have it exactly the way I want it? And then just again, like I said at the last show, just don't spread yourself out too much, because what you end up having to do is if you spread out with too many quarterback wide receiver stacks is the one that comes in, you're going to have to ever get everything else perfect. You're going to have no way to you're not going to have like multiple running back chances to get there. You're not going to have multiple tight end or defense chances to get there. I think it's better to take a couple of to try if you're best to concentrate a little bit and then deviate with your one-offs or deviate elsewhere. But again, just as always, watch the injury news, and my last bit of advice is don't worry as much about ownership this week as some other weeks, because as you were saying, with the exception of the running back position, and even that, it's like maybe you have a couple of 20% guys, whatever. It's not like one of them is like 40%, right? So I mean, don't worry too much about it. Try to make the best plays, as best as you can this week, and just enjoy watching the games.
Absolutely. Good luck to everyone out there. I really appreciate Sheets you doing this with us. I'm going to load this video up so I can get it out to the people right now. Guys, good luck to everyone tomorrow, and make sure don't do what I did and spread out so much. I will have my range narrowed by tomorrow, and hopefully we'll be looking at the $1 million results by me, and then Sheets coming in second.
I'll take it.
All right, let's do it. All right, guys. Good luck tomorrow.